welcome to the deep dive. So if you're really working hard on your English, you know this feeling, right? You spend ages, literally ages, learning grammar, like the conditional tenses, memorizing these long vocabulary lists, and then you step into just a normal chat with a native speaker, and bam, you feel totally lost. They talk so fast, words just squash together, and all that stuff you learned in class suddenly feels, oh, useless.
It really is the biggest hurdle for so many learners. It's this gap, between the English in books and the English people actually speak. It's like an auditory shock sometimes.
Yeah.
So today, we're going to really break down some key strategies, high leverage ones, to help you bridge that gap.
Exactly. That's our mission today. We want to give you a really solid step-by-step guide, something practical to boost your understanding and honestly your confidence when you're listening to native speakers. We've gathered a whole bunch of tips, like 24 of them practical techniques, and we've grouped them together to make them easier to digest and hopefully really effective.
Yeah, and we're going beyond just saying listen more. That's common advice, but it's not always helpful on its own. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty, the sort of mechanics of spoken English, how fast speech works, why it sounds the way it does, and show you how to actually train your ear, not just learn more words, to follow that natural, sometimes messy flow of conversation.
Right. This deep dive is all about getting you the tools so you can stop doing that constant translation in your head and start actually processing English as it happens in real time. So let's jump in. First up, why? Why is listening to native speakers talking naturally so much harder than, say, listening to textbook audio?
Well, if you ask most learners, speed is the first thing they mention. They talk too fast.
Yeah.
But it's actually a bit more complex than just speed. It's multi-layered. Understanding spoken English means adapting to the rhythm, the variations, and how native speakers almost instinctively compress language.
Compression. That's where connected speech comes in, right? That's the technical term.
Exactly.
Because in lessons, every word is pronounced perfectly, separately, like beads on a string. But when we actually talk, especially quickly, we don't do that. We drop sounds, change sounds, blend words. It's all about being efficient, I guess.
It is. It's linguistic efficiency.
Right.
Think about those common reductions. A learner first sees, I am going to, or I want to. They learn to say every sound. But in real life, it becomes, I'm gonna, or I wanna, almost always.
Right.
So if your brain is sitting there waiting for, say, 4 distinct syllables in going to go, but it only hears this one quick sound, gotta go.
It throws you off completely.
Massively. That cognitive dissonance is huge. Your brain's like, that doesn't match what I learned.
And that blending, that phonetic blurring, it's really tricky to get used to. It's not just shrinking words, is it? It's also linking them together.
Right. Linking is a big part of it. Like when a word ends in a consonant and the next starts with a vowel, think an apple.
Sounds like an apple.
Exactly. The sounds just flow together. And then there's assimilation, where sounds actually change because of the sounds next to them.
Okay, like what?
The classic one is did you. If you say it slowly, it's clear. Did you? But speak quickly, naturally, and that D and Y sound often merge. It comes out sounding like dija.
Dija. Yeah, I can hear that.
So if you're trying to mentally separate the sounds for did and you based on how you learn them individually, you can't. Those separate sounds just aren't there in the fast string of speech. Your brain stalls.
It's fascinating when you think about the physical reason. It's just our tongue taking the shortest path, isn't it? Minimum effort.
Pretty much. We're not trying to be difficult. We're just optimizing for speed and ease.
But the consequence for the learner is tough. You have to learn to recognize the sound of the whole connected phrase, not just the individual words you see written down.
And then you layer on top of that the huge variety of English around the world. Accents and dialects, that's another major hurdle.
Oh, definitely. You might feel pretty confident with, say, standard American English from TV shows, but then you hear someone with a strong Scottish accent, or maybe someone from Jamaica or India.
And suddenly, the vowel sounds are different. The rhythm changes. Maybe certain consonants are pronounced in a way you've never heard.
It can honestly feel like you're listening to a completely different language, even if the words and grammar are basically the same.
Your brain's doing double duty processing the meaning and trying to decode this new set of sounds. So deliberately listening to different accents isn't just a nice to have. It's pretty much essential if you want that broad comprehension ability.
Yeah, you need that flexibility. And the final barrier we need to talk about is slang and informal language, the everyday stuff.
Ah, yes. The verbal landmines, as you called them earlier. These casual, often very culture-specific phrases, they make zero sense if you just translate the words literally.
Like the classic example, what's up?
Right, literally.
Yeah.
what is physically above me. But context tells you it's just hello or how are you?
But slang changes so fast, too, doesn't it? And it can be really specific to age groups or regions.
Totally. Think about a phrase like, that's fire. If you've only learned fire means, flames and heat.
You'd be very confused.
Right. But in context, maybe talking about music or food, it just means that's amazing or excellent.
Or spill the tea.
Good one.
Yeah.
If someone tells you to spill the tea, they're not worried about you making a mess with your drink.
No, they want the gossip.
Exactly. They want the juicy details, the inside scoop. And traditional classes, they rarely touch on this kind of constantly evolving informal language. So you really need that real-world exposure.
Okay, so we get the challenges. This perfect storm of fast connected speech, all these different accents, and then slang thrown in. It's a lot. So let's get into the strategies. The first tip is basically listen to the real thing, natural speech. What does that actually mean in practice for someone trying to improve?
It means consciously moving away from those super clear, often slowed down recordings made specifically for language learners. They have their place initially, but if your goal is understanding native speakers in real life, you have to actually listen to native speakers in real life or recordings of them speaking naturally. And that means, accepting that it might be faster, maybe a bit messier than you're used to.
And the key goal here, the material stresses, isn't getting every single word right. It's more about the big picture.
Precisely. Focus on the general meaning, the overall gist of what's being said, and also just getting used to the rhythm, the cadence, the speed of natural speech. If you miss a word, and you will, the trick is to just keep going. Don't stop and rewind mentally over that one lost word, because while you're doing that, you'll miss the next 10 words.
Makes sense. Keep the flow going.
Yeah, and find stuff you actually like listening to. A podcast about your hobby, maybe sports commentary, cooking videos on YouTube, whatever. That interest keeps you motivated when it gets tough. And don't be afraid to rewind and re-listen to short bits. That's totally normal. Repetition helps your brain map the sounds to the words.
Okay, so accept ambiguity, focus on gist, use interesting material, and repeat. That leads nicely into tip 2, which is about filtering. Focusing on keywords. If you can't catch everything, you need to train your brain to grab the most important bits, yeah.
Exactly. It's like developing an internal filter. The core message of almost any sentence is carried by the main meaning words. The nouns, the main verbs, the adjectives, maybe adverbs. Those little function words like is, are, the to, some native speakers often swallow them, reduce them, or blend them into other words. They're grammatically important, sure, but they don't usually carry the main meaning.
Okay, but I can see a potential problem there. If I'm only listening for store, buy, groceries, from the example, I'm going to the store to buy some groceries, how do I know the tense? Did they go yesterday? Are they going tomorrow? Aren't I losing important grammatical information by just grabbing keywords?
That's a really important question. And you're right, keywords alone don't give you everything, like tense or subtle nuances, but they give you, say, 80% of the core information. The rest often comes from context, which is tip 4, we'll get there, and also from the rhythm and intonation and maybe other key time words. For instance, if someone says, I was at the store yesterday, the word yesterday is a key content word that clearly signals the past tense. The was at the part might still be reduced or quick.
Oh.
So you prioritize grabbing those main content words, including time markers like yesterday or tomorrow, and you trust that the surrounding context will help fill in the grammatical gaps.
So a practical exercise could be, listen to a short conversation, try to jot down only the main content words you hear, and then see if you can summarize the conversation just from that list. Forces you to practice filtering.
Exactly. That really works that muscle. And once you start getting better at picking out those key words, tip 3 helps you organize them. Break the speech down into chunks. Native speech isn't just one long, continuous drone. We naturally pause, even briefly, between ideas or phrases. These are often called breath groups or thought groups.
Right, finding those natural breaks, that seems crucial. It stops it feeling like one overwhelming tidal wave of words.
It turns one seemingly endless sentence into smaller, more manageable pieces of information.
Like your example. I drove to the gym this morning, pause, and completely forgot my workout clothes, pause. So I had to drive all the way back home, and now I'm running late.
Yeah, that's really 4 distinct chunks of meaning. And a native speaker naturally inserts those little pauses, those breaks. If you can train your ear to hear those pauses, you're essentially processing one smaller idea at a time, which is much less taxing on your brain.
So if you're listening to audio or video, you could literally hit pause after you hear one of those chunks, process it quickly, then hit play again. especially when you're starting out.
Definitely. It reduces that cognitive overload quite significantly.
Okay, filtering for keywords, listening for chunks. What else? Tip 4. Use context clues. This feels like using your detective skills.
It really is. When your vocabulary lets you down or you miss something because of speed, your understanding of the situation, the topic, even nonverbal cues becomes critical.
So paying attention to where you are, who you're talking to, what you were just talking about.
Exactly. And if you can see the speaker, their body language, their facial expressions, their tone of voice,
Yeah.
all of that provides vital clues.
Like the example, if you're talking about food and someone says, grab a bite, even if you don't know that exact idiom, the context makes it pretty clear they mean get something to eat.
Right. Or if you're discussing car trouble and you hear the word tow, maybe muffled or unclear, the context strongly suggests they're talking about needing assistance, like calling a tow truck.
Context helps you make intelligent guesses.
It does. It narrows down the possibilities for unknown words or phrases. It's your safety net when pure auditory processing isn't enough.
All right, so we've got those core strategies for just handling fast speech in the moment. Now let's think about how to actually structure your listening practice. It's not just about volume, it's about the quality and variety of what you listen to. Which brings us to tip 5, practice with different accents.
Yeah, we touched on this. English isn't monolithic. If you only ever listen to, say, Californian accents, you might be completely thrown by someone from Liverpool or Sydney. Totally. That difference between schedule, American, and schedule, British, is a classic example. Or different vowel sounds, different R sounds. The advice here is to be really intentional about it. Don't just passively hope you'll encounter accents. Actively seek them out.
So what does that look like? Maybe watch a British TV show one week, then an Australian movie the next.
Exactly. Or listen to news from different English-speaking countries. BBC World Service, CBC from Canada, ABC from Australia. Mix it up.
Wow.
You're basically training your brain to be more flexible, to recognize the underlying word even when the surface pronunciation is different. You're building up its tolerance for variation.
Building that universal English decoder, like you said, so your brain focuses on the message, not just the accent delivering it. Okay, but what if, even with the right accent, the speed is just still too much?
That's where tip 6 comes in, and it's important. It is okay to slow down the speed. Give yourself permission.
Using the playback controls on YouTube, podcasts, apps, audiobooks.
Yeah, absolutely leverage that technology. If you're tackling a really challenging piece of audio, especially at first, knocking the speed down to maybe 0.8x or 0.75x can make a huge difference. It lets your brain catch up. You can actually hear those blended sounds, those reductions, more clearly when they're slowed down slightly.
But the key is not to stay there forever, right? It's a temporary scaffold.
Exactly. It's a training tool, not a permanent solution. The strategy should be gradual. Start slow if you need to, but as you get more comfortable, nudge the speed up. Go from 0.75x maybe to 0.85x, then 0.9x, and eventually back to 1x or normal speed. You're gently conditioning your ear to keep pace, rather than just jumping into the deep end of full-speed native speech unprepared.
Makes sense. Gradual exposure. Okay, another tool for understanding input is subtitles. Tip 7 says use them wisely. How do we do that?
Subtitles are fantastic for connecting the sounds you hear with the words on the page. But yeah, wisely is the key word. They can easily become a crutch you rely on instead of actually improving your listening.
So what's the wise way?
The source suggests a progression. If something is really difficult, maybe start with subtitles in your native language just to get the main ideas and context quickly.
Okay.
Then, the crucial step, switch to English subtitles. This is where you see the exact words being spoken.
Yeah.
You literally see going to while hearing gonna. That connection is powerful.
Right. Mapping sound to text.
But then, and this is the hardest part, you have to challenge yourself to turn them off completely.
The final step.
Yeah, because if the English subtitles are always on, your brain will naturally take the path of least resistance, which is reading. You'll stop actively listening and just read along. The goal is independence from the text. You need to force your listening muscles to do the work. And maybe no, subtitles aren't always perfect, especially with fast speech or slang.
Good point. Okay, moving on to tips 8 and 9 about the quality of your listening sources. Why are things like TED Talks recommended so often?
TED Talks hit a sweet spot for learners in many ways. The speakers are usually pretty articulate. They tend to speak at a moderate, clear pace they're presenting, after all. The topics are often interesting and varied. And critically, TED usually provides accurate transcripts and captions, which makes them perfect for that structured listening practice we talked about earlier, like using the 4-step transcript method.
But tip 9 warns against only listening to clear, polished sources like TED Talks. We need variety, right?
Absolutely.
Ah.
If you only listen to perfectly delivered presentations, you won't be ready for the reality of everyday conversation.
Which can be messy, overlapping, full of interruptions.
Exactly. So you need to diversify your listening diet. Listen to formal news reports. They often use complex sentences but have very clear pronunciation. Then listen to casual interviews, podcasts of multiple hosts, maybe even reality TV shows. Those give you exposure to faster speech, interruptions, fillers, and maybe more slang.
So you become adaptable. You can handle different speeds, different levels of formality, different contexts.
That's the goal, versatility,
Yeah.
being able to cope with English in whatever form it comes at you.
Okay, so we've set up the right listening environment. We're choosing good sources, using tools like speed control and subtitles wisely. Now let's get into more active techniques, things that really train your skills directly. And tip 10 is a big one, shadowing. Can you break that down? What exactly is it?
Shadowing is incredibly powerful. It's basically listening to a short piece of native speech and repeating it out loud, almost simultaneously. You're trying to copy the speaker's speed, their rhythm, their intonation, like their shadow.
So not listening, pausing, then repeating, but actually speaking along with them or just a fraction of a second behind?
Exactly. Real-time echoing. It feels weird at first
I bet. Why is it so effective, though?
because it forces you to stop thinking about grammar rules or translating in your head. You have to focus purely on the sounds and the rhythm. And because you're physically making those same sounds, moving your mouth in the same way, it connects the auditory input with the motor output. Your muscle memory gets involved.
Ah, so you start to feel how connected speech works.
Precisely. You internalize those tricky bits, the
Yeah.
gonna, the wanna, the linked words, not as abstract rules, but as physical movements.
Yeah.
This drastically improves your own pronunciation and rhythm, which in turn makes it much easier to recognize and decode those same patterns when you hear other people speak. It's a feedback loop.
Wow, okay. That sounds like a high-impact exercise. Hard, but effective.
Definitely. Short bursts are best to start. Maybe just shadow one sentence at a time.
All right, moving on. Tip 11 talks about the foundation, improving vocabulary, but with a specific focus on collocations.
Yeah, obviously knowing more words helps, especially practical everyday words related to common topics, food, travel, work. But just learning single words in isolation isn't enough for fluency. You need to learn words that naturally go together. These are collocations.
Like make a decision, not do a decision, or heavy rain, not usually strong rain.
Exactly. Native speakers use these fixed or semi-fixed pairings constantly. Learning them as chunks, as single units, saves your brain a lot of processing power. When you hear "meka," your brain can almost predict that decision or mistake or effort or phone call might be coming next.
That predictive ability must really speed up comprehension during fast speech.
Hugely. It's a big part of what makes native listening seem effortless for native speakers. They anticipate based on these common pairings.
Okay, so focus on word partners, not just individual words. That leads into tip 12, another vocabulary challenge. Idiomatic expressions.
Idioms. The bane of many learners' existence. These phrases where the overall meaning has nothing to do with the meaning of the individual words.
Yeah, like, it's raining cats and dogs, if you try to picture that literally.
It's absurd. It just means it's raining very heavily. Or pulling someone's leg.
Meaning teasing them, joking with them, not actually grabbing their limb.
Right. Or break a leg before a performance, meaning good luck. They can be totally confusing if you haven't learned them specifically.
So the advice is, don't try to figure them out logically.
Pretty much. Treat them like unique vocabulary items. You have to learn the whole phrase in its specific meaning and the context it's used in. Keep a list, maybe in that listening journal we'll talk about later. Use flashcards. Actively learn the common ones. There's no shortcut, really.
Got it. Learn them as fixed chunks. Finally, in this section, tip 13, focus on stress and intonation. This is the music of English you mentioned.
Absolutely crucial. Stress, which syllable or word you emphasize, and intonation, the rise and fall of your voice. The melody can completely change the meaning of a sentence, even if the words stay exactly the same.
This is where that famous example sentence comes in, isn't it? I didn't say you stole my book.
That's the one. It's brilliant because you can stress almost any word and get a different meaning.
Okay, let's break it down. If I stress I didn't say you stole my book.
That means someone else might have said it, but I didn't. You're denying being the source of the accusation.
Okay, what if I stress didn't? I didn't say you stole my book.
That's usually emphasizing the denial itself. like I strongly deny saying that. Or maybe correcting someone who thought you did say it.
Right. How about say, I didn't say you stole my book.
Ah, this one's subtle. It could imply, maybe I wrote it down, or I hinted at it, or thought it, but I never actually spoke the words aloud.
Okay. Stress on you. I didn't say you stole my book.
That implies I might have said someone else stole it, just not you. You're shifting the target of the accusation away from the listener.
And finally, stress on my, I didn't say you stole my book.
This suggests maybe you stole someone else's book, but mine is safe. You're clarifying which book wasn't stolen or wasn't accused of being stolen by you.
Wow. One sentence, 5 different core meanings just based on which word gets the emphasis. That really highlights how important stress is.
It's massive. If you miss the stress, you can completely misunderstand the speaker's intention.
And intonation, too, right?
Yeah.
The melody.
Definitely. The most basic example is questions. In English, we often signal a question just by making our voice go up at the end, even if the word order is like a statement.
Like, you're coming to the party, falling intonation statement, versus, you're coming to the party, rising intonation question.
Exactly. Same words, different melody, different meaning. So training your ear to catch these nuances of stress and intonation is just as important as learning vocabulary or grammar. Okay, so we've covered the core challenges, the basic strategies, refining input, and active techniques like shadowing and focusing on stress. Now let's talk about putting it all together with structured practice and managing your mindset. Tip 14 brings back the idea of using transcripts, but in a very specific, structured way.
Right. This is that 4-step process you mentioned. It sounds really systematic. What's step 1?
Step 1, just listen. Listen to the audio clip without looking at the transcript at all. This is your baseline check, how much you understand just by ear.
Okay. Then step 2?
Step 2, check the transcript, but only for the specific parts that confused you or that you missed. Try to figure out why you missed them. Was it a new word? Connected speech? An idiom? Don't just read the whole thing yet.
Targeted checking. I like that. Step 3.
Step 3 is the connection phase. Listen to the audio again, but this time read along with the transcript simultaneously. This is where your brain explicitly links the sounds you're hearing, like gonna, with the written words, going to.
Yeah.
You're bridging that gap between spoken and written forms.
Solidifying the connection. And the final step.
Step 4. Listen one more time, but without the transcript again. See if your comprehension has improved now that you've made those connections. You're testing if the learning is stuck, relying on your ears now, not your eyes.
That sounds like a really effective loop. Listen, check, connect, test. You could do that with any short audio clip with a transcript.
Exactly. It maximizes the learning from one piece of material.
Okay, next up, tip 15. Practice active listening. This sounds like more than just hearing.
It is. Active listening means full concentration. You're not just passively letting the sound wash over you. You're paying close attention to everything. The words, the tone of voice, the pauses, the emotion. If you can see the speaker, their body language too.
And one key technique for active listening is paraphrasing.
Yes, checking your understanding. Either silently in your head or sometimes even out loud in a conversation, you can quickly restate what you think the speaker meant in your own words. Saying something like, okay, so if I understand correctly, you're saying, or so what you mean is, it confirms you're on the right track or gives them a chance to clarify.
And another part of active listening is simply not interrupting, letting them finish.
It's tempting, especially if you think you know where they're going or if you have a question. But letting the speaker complete their thought, their chunk of meaning, ensures you get the full picture before you jump in. You catch more details that way.
Makes sense. Now, while we're actively listening, tip 16 tells us to learn to recognize fillers, those ums and ohs.
Yeah, filler words. Like, well, sort of. Native speakers use them all the time. They're like verbal placeholders while our brain catches up or finds the right word.
But they can be really distracting for learners, can't they? They add noise to an already fast stream of speech.
They can be. The key is to train yourself to recognize them for what they are. Basically, pauses, moments of hesitation, and then mentally filter them out. Don't get stuck on the like or the, focus on the words around them, the actual content. Once you realize they're just normal speech tics, they become less distracting. You learn to listen through them for the message.
Right. Don't let the filler derail your focus on the main keywords and chunks. Okay, what about finding specific practice materials, tips 17 and 18?
Yeah, tip 17 suggests using dedicated listening comprehension exercises. There are tons of apps and websites out there that offer short audio clips, conversations, news reports, mini lectures, followed by specific questions. testing your understanding of details, main ideas, inference, etc. It provides focused, measurable practice.
And tip 18 emphasizes combining that solo practice with actual interaction, joining conversation groups.
Hugely important. This is where you put it all to the test in real time. Conversation groups, whether online or in person, expose you to different people, different accents, different speeds, all in a relatively low-pressure, supportive environment.
You get immediate feedback on whether you're understanding and being understood.
Exactly. It's the bridge between structured practice and unpredictable real-world conversation.
And speaking of practice tools, tips 19 and 20 highlight technology and journaling.
Right. Tip 19 points to the wealth of language learning apps, things like Duolingo or Babbel for general skills, Memrise or Anki for focused vocabulary and collocation practice using spaced repetition flashcards. And then there are apps specifically for conversation exchange, like HelloTalk or Tandem, that connect you directly with native speakers for practice via text, voice messages, or calls. Amazing resources.
So leveraging the tech. And tip 20 is about going low tech but high reflection, the listening journal.
Yeah, this is more than just a list of new words. A good listening journal involves writing down new phrases, idioms, or tricky connected speech examples you hear. But also noting where you heard them, the context, maybe who said it, how difficult it felt, and crucially, making an effort to actually use those new items yourself soon after.
That active recall and usage really cements it in your memory.
It does. It makes you much more conscious of the language you're encountering and actively integrates it into your own repertoire.
Okay, almost there. The final tips, 21 and 22, seem to be all about mindset, patience, and asking for help.
Absolutely critical. Tip 21 is just, be patient. Learning to understand native speech fluently is hard. It takes time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. There will be frustrating days. The key is persistence and celebrating the small wins.
Like noticing you understood an idiom this week that would have confused you last month, or following a fast conversation for a bit longer than before.
Exactly. Acknowledge that progress. Don't beat yourself up over mistakes. If you hit a wall, maybe take a short break, but then come back to it. Consistency over perfection.
And finally, tip 22. Don't be afraid to ask for clarification. This can be tough, especially if you feel embarrassed.
It can, but it's so important. In a real conversation, if you're lost, it's much better to ask than to just nod along pretending you understand. Most native speakers are happy to help someone who's making an effort. Learn a few polite phrases.
Like, sorry, could you say that again a bit slower? Or, I didn't quite catch that last part.
Or even, what does idiom slang word mean? Or could you explain that differently? Asking shows you're engaged and genuinely want to understand. It puts you back in control of the conversation and ensures you actually get the information you need. Don't let fear hold you back from clarity. Hashtag outro.
Wow, okay. That was a really comprehensive deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from understanding why native speech is so tricky.
Digging into things like connected speech, those reductions and blends, and the sheer variety of accents.
Yeah, and then moving into a whole toolkit of strategies, both for listening in the moment, like filtering for keywords and breaking speech into chunks.
And also those active practice methods like shadowing, really focusing on stress and intonation, using transcripts systematically.
And crucially, building vocabulary through collocations and idioms, and using all the resources available from tech to conversation groups.
It really shows that understanding native speakers isn't some magical talent. It's a skill built through targeted practice and the right techniques.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to feel out of reach, but as we heard, consistency is key. You have to keep putting in the work, practicing these strategies regularly, moving from just passively hearing to actively trying to comprehend.
So here's that final thought, that challenge for you, the listener. Try this today or tomorrow. Find just a short audio or video clip, maybe 30 seconds, of a native speaker talking naturally, and listen to it specifically for the rhythm. Forget the grammar for a moment. Try shadowing it, even badly at first. Focus entirely on how the speaker flows between words. Where do they pause? Where do words link together? Where does their voice go up or down? What gets shortened?
That conscious shift in focus from just what words are they saying to how does the music of their speech actually work, that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? That's the gap between just knowing English rules and truly understanding spoken English as it happens in the real world.
Exactly. Practice hearing the rhythm.
You've got the tools now. Go practice the rhythm. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. You know, it's a common story, isn't it? You spend ages learning English, memorizing words, grammar,
Mm-hmm.
And then you actually talk to a native speaker, and it just feels like they're speaking at double speed. It can be pretty frustrating.
Oh, absolutely. That gap between textbook English and, well, real world English, that's the big one. The speed, the slang, how words kind of just disappear.
Right.
Our mission today is basically to bridge that gap. We want to get beyond just knowing the rules.
Exactly. So we're doing our deep dives, looking at the sources, and pulling out the really practical, actionable stuff. We're aiming to shift how you actually process and maybe even produce that fast, natural speech. It's about boosting listening and speaking.
And to really tackle it, we first need to understand why it's so challenging. Our sources consistently point to 4 main hurdles.
Okay, let's break them down. Hurdle number 1, the big one, sheer speed, and how words get all mushed together.
Yeah, the blending and contractions. Native speakers, well, we're kind of lazy, linguistically speaking. We save energy, sounds get chopped, changed.
Like the classic gonna for going to or wanna for want to.
Right, but it goes way beyond that now. You've got hafta for have to, kinda for kind of, even things like did you for did you. If you're listening hard for I have to go now, and what you actually hear is I have to go now, your brain just hits a wall, right? It flags it as unknown. You lose the flow.
Instantly. Okay, so speed and blending, that's hurdle 1. What's the second?
Accents and dialects. This is huge. English isn't just one thing. It's spoken all over the world.
American, British, Australian, South African, the list goes on.
Exactly. And each place has its own music, its own rhythm, different vowel sounds. Someone from London sounds very different from someone from Sydney or Toronto.
Yeah.
So if you've only ever practiced listening to, say, standard American English, and then you meet someone with a strong Scottish accent,
it can feel like a completely different language almost.
It really can. Your ear is tuned to one set of patterns, and suddenly it's getting something else entirely, like that I sound shifting in Australia, fish sounding more like fish. It throws you off.
Okay, hurdle 3. This must be slang and informal stuff.
You got it. The everyday language, the stuff that changes constantly. Things you almost never find in a textbook.
Like knowing what's up just means hello or how are you, not actually asking about the ceiling.
Precisely. Or imagine hearing, that meeting was a bit of a wash. If you take it literally, you're lost. You need the cultural context to know it means it wasn't very productive.
Right, context is key there. And the final hurdle.
This one's maybe the most complex, technically speaking, connected speech.
So this isn't just blending like gonna, it's more.
Yeah, it's how whole phrases can sort of melt together into one continuous sound stream. It happens mechanically when sounds at word boundaries link up.
Can you give an example?
Sure, think about pick it up. Spoken fast, the K sound at the end of pick links to the I in it. And the T at the end of it links to the U in up. So it comes out sounding almost like one word.
Peaky tup.
Peaky tup. Wow, yeah. If your brain is hunting for 3 separate words, pick it, up it won't find them. That's why native speech can sometimes sound like mumbling if you're not used to it.
Okay, so those are the 4 big challenges. Speed and blending, accents, slang, and connected speech. Pretty daunting. So how do we actually start tackling this? We can't just ask everyone to speak slower.
No, exactly. We need strategies for our ears. And the first big one is what our sources call focused filtering. It's about knowing what to actually listen for.
Meaning, don't try to catch every single tiny word.
Precisely. When someone's talking fast, trying to grab every is, are, the is, are, it's just impossible. You'll burn out.
Right.
The key is to focus on the content words. The nouns, the main verbs, the adjectives, the adverbs. These carry the actual meaning.
The heavy lifters of the sentence.
Exactly. The smaller words, the function words, they provide grammar structure. But often you can figure out the main idea even if you miss a few.
Okay, that makes sense. So I hear someone say something like, boss.meeting, reschedule Friday. I get the main point.
You got it. The boss is rescheduling the meeting for Friday. You didn't need the is going to for to understand that core message. It lightens the load on your brain.
That sounds much more manageable. What else falls under focus filtering?
Thinking about speech in chunks. This builds on the keyword idea. Native speakers don't usually speak in one long, monotonous stream. We pause naturally between ideas or phrases.
Like little thought groups.
Yeah, exactly. Listen for those slight hesitations, those little breaks. It might sound like, I went to the store, pause, and then I saw my friend, pause, and we decided to grab some coffee.
Okay, so you're processing it in smaller bites.
Right. Instead of trying to remember one long sentence, you're understanding maybe 3 shorter concepts. It gives your brain a split second to catch up before the next chunk starts.
Okay, focus on keywords. Listen for chunks. Makes sense. Now, where do we practice this? This leads us to immersion, right?
Definitely. But it's about active immersion, not just having English on in the background. The sources really push listening to real, unscripted conversations.
So less language, less in audio, more. Podcasts, YouTube.
Exactly. Find stuff you're genuinely interested in. If you love cooking, watch native speakers cook. If you're into tech, listen to tech reviews.
Why is the interest part so important?
Because if you already understand the topic, you have context. You can anticipate vocabulary, follow the general idea more easily. That frees up mental energy to focus purely on the sound, the rhythm, the speed, the connected speech. Even if you only catch, say, 70% at first, you're training your ear.
And tying back to the accent hurdle, be deliberate about what you listen to.
Absolutely. If you know you'll be interacting a lot with British speakers, make sure you listen to British podcasts, news, TV shows. Get your ear used to that specific sound. It makes a huge difference when you hear it live.
And what about speed itself? Is it okay to cheat a little? Yeah.
Using the slowdown feature, yes, definitely, but strategically. YouTube, podcast apps, they often let you play at 0.75x or 0.8x speed.
That helps pick apart those connected sounds.
It does, but, and this is crucial, it's like training wheels. Use it to understand how the words connect, then immediately try listening again at normal speed. Don't get stuck listening slowly forever. The goal is real-world speed.
Okay, solid strategies. Now let's get into some more advanced techniques. The first one sounds intense. Shadowing.
It is intense, but incredibly effective. Shadowing means you repeat what you hear immediately after the speaker, like milliseconds behind them. Not pausing and repeating, but talking almost over them.
So you're matching their speed, their rhythm, their intonation, like an echo.
Exactly like an echo.
Okay, I get how that helps pronunciation.
Yeah.
But how does it boost listening so much?
It's about connecting the physical act of speaking with the sound. When you force your mouth to make those fast, connected sounds, your brain starts recognizing those patterns much faster when you hear them.
Ah, so producing the sounds helps you decode the sounds.
Precisely. You're training your mouth and your ear simultaneously. You internalize the flow, the stress patterns. It dramatically cuts down the processing time when someone else speaks that way to you.
Fascinating. Okay, technique 2. Using context clues. This feels like a survival skill.
It absolutely is. This is what you do when you inevitably miss a word or phrase. You use the situation, the topic, maybe even body language to make an educated guess.
Like someone walks in drenched and says, "Man, it's really coming down out there," even if you don't know that specific phrase.
You know it means it's raining heavily. The context fills the gap.
And this must be vital for idioms, right? Those phrases where the literal meaning is useless.
Oh, completely. Think about common work phrases. Someone says, "We need to touch base later." Context tells you they mean talk or check in, not actually physically touch anything.
Or, let's table this discussion for now, means postpone it, not put it on a piece of furniture.
Exactly. Context is everything for idioms and phrasal verbs.
Okay, technique 3 is about something subtle but powerful. Intonation and stress.
Often overlooked, but it can change the entire meaning. Think about the sentence, "I didn't say you stole my book." If I stress I didn't say you stole my book, someone else said it, stress say. I didn't say you stole my book. Maybe I implied it. Stress you. I didn't say you stole my book. Someone else stole it.
Wow, yeah. Same words, totally different implications based on where the emphasis falls.
You have to listen not just to what words are used, but how they're said, the rise and fall, the stress. It carries a lot of meaning.
And to help analyze all this detail, technique 4. Using visual aids like subtitles and transcripts smartly.
Yes, smartly is the key word. Don't just turn on subtitles and passively read along. Use them actively.
How so? Like a specific process?
Yeah, one effective cycle is, first, listen without anything. Just try your best. Second, listen again while reading the transcript or subtitles. Pinpoint exactly where you got lost, what words you missed. Third, listen again while reading, really focusing on connecting the sound you hear to the words on the page. Fourth, listen one last time without any aids and see how much more you understand.
That sounds way more active than just watching a movie with subtitles on. It's like targeted practice.
It is. You're diagnosing your weaknesses and directly addressing them.
All right, moving into the final stretch. Let's talk mindset, resources, the long game. First up, active listening.
Right. This isn't just passively hearing sounds, it's being fully engaged, paying attention to tone, noticing if the speaker seems hesitant or confident, really trying to understand their point of view.
And a key part of that is checking your understanding.
Absolutely. Paraphrasing is a great tool. You don't have to interrupt constantly, but when there's a natural pause, you can say something like, okay, so if I'm following, the main issue is X.
That confirms you understood, and it shows you're engaged.
Exactly. And related to this, please don't be afraid to ask for clarification.
It's not a sign of weakness.
Not at all. It's a sign you want to understand. A simple, sorry, could you say that again a bit slower? Or what does touch base mean exactly? People are almost always happy to explain.
Good point.
Eh.
Okay, what about vocabulary? Just learn more words.
Not just more, but smarter. Focus on vocabulary that's actually useful for you. Your job, your hobbies, travel, everyday interactions.
And not just single words, right?
Definitely not. Focus heavily on collocations, words that naturally go together. We don't say make a party, we say throw a party. We don't say strong mistake, we say big mistake.
Learning those chunks makes your speech sound more natural too.
And it helps you predict words when listening. If you hear Mako R, your brain is already anticipating words like decision, mistake, choice.
Smart. Okay, tools and resources beyond the usual apps.
Well, apps like Duolingo or Babbel are great for basics. But for tackling speed and real conversation, you need something more dynamic. Conversation exchange apps, things like Tandem or HelloTalk, they connect you with native speakers for actual spontaneous chat. It forces you to practice listening and responding in real time.
That directly hits the speed problem. Any other specific resources?
TED Talks are fantastic, usually clear speakers, interesting topics, moderate pace, and crucially, they almost always have accurate transcripts available. Perfect for that four-step listening practice we talked about.
Good recommendation. And finally, maybe the most important resource.
Patience. You gotta have patience. Language learning isn't instant. It's building patterns in your brain little by little.
Celebrate the small wins.
Exactly. The first time you understand a fast sentence, the first time you use an idiom correctly, acknowledge the progress. Perfection isn't the goal overnight. Consistent effort is.
This has been incredibly helpful. We've covered the main hurdles, speed, accents, slang, connected speech, and armed everyone with concrete tactics like focusing on keywords, chunking, the power of shadowing.
And using context, intonation, visual aids smartly, plus the importance of active listening and asking questions.
Right. Remember, consistency is key. Putting these things into practice regularly is what makes the difference.
It really will change how your brain handles spoken English.
So we talked a lot about listening to different types of English. Here's a final thought to chew on, building on that idea of active engagement. This week, try keeping a dedicated listening journal.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, don't just jot down new words. Note the context you heard them in. Was it a fast reduction like kinda? What was the situation? How did the speaker use that slang term? So the question is, how does actively tracking where and why you encounter difficulties immediately shift your focus when you're just listening casually? Does it push you from just letting the sound wash over you into really hunting for those patterns?
That's a great challenge. Turns passive listening into active analysis. Until next time, keep practicing, keep listening actively.
And remember, every chat is a chance to improve.